How do you create a visual metaphor for stress and anxiety? That's what the students at Cleveland Charter High School learned to do in their video, Solo. The issues of stereotyping and myths about class are dramatized in this film, Inside Outside. James Gleason from Cleveland Charter High School is the producer of Solo and Inside Out. He has been winning Vic Awards since our very first competition. It's a pleasure to welcome him again this year.
James, thank you for joining us and congratulations on your Vic Award.
Thank you.
I want to talk about your project Solo. Tell me, what direction, what guidance did you give the students responsible for that production?
Well, we brainstormed, it's a PSA, so we brainstormed having something to do with mental health or suicide. That was kind of the parameters that we chose. And one of the students brought up the pressures that's like brought on by parents pushing the kids to get A's, and anything up below an A would be not acceptable. And so that's where the idea came from. The different kind of pressure or depression or anxiety can be caused by many things, but this was one that they had decided would be something that hasn't been dealt with that much, at least in a PSA. So it was an overachieving student that was our main character, and it was how much pressure playing instruments, studying, staying up late, and how that kind of pressure can be counterproductive.
You had some very interesting shots in the piece. How do you direct students? How do you guide them when it comes to the process of scene selection?
Well, we study the first semester visuals, and that film is a visual medium, and it's very difficult to get that across with students who love to talk, so they like to have lots of dialogue. And so part of the assignment is how can we tell something visually without words? What are symbols? In this case, it was like a motif of the violin, and practicing violin over and over, and then finally the string popping being a metaphor for her mind popping.
Both of your Vic Award-winning productions this year contain no dialogue. Was that a conscientious choice?
Yes, I found over the years, many years of teaching this, that I'll give you an example. I had a student hand in his script, and the script said, let's go to the mall. Yeah, we'll have a good time there. And then they have a shot of them walking, getting on the bus, then and this was all written. I said, wait a minute. does that move the story along? Why are we talking about going to the mall? Why don't you just show up at the mall? Where does the story start? And I found that a lot of the students' scripts are all this talk. So I made a point of making them do something that had very little dialogue or no dialogue. And that was a first semester choice to do that. And so it's part of the problem when you're teaching film is that students who generally love to talk like to transfer that. You know, if they had seen a movie with that, they probably wouldn't like it. They say it's boring. Why don't we get to the point? Where's the story? You know, but so making a shorter piece and having to be clear. Clarity is very important. And make it simple, but have simple in being able to understand it. But the underlying subtext has got to be more complicated, more thought-provoking. Try to get people to fill in the gaps, so you don't have to go on the nose with stuff.
Well, James, thank you for your insight. Thank you for joining us, and congratulations on your picks.
Thank you.
Our next winning entry demonstrates how video can be a valuable tool for teachers and administrators. Instructional Rounds documents how lead teachers, principals, and coordinators from 2 high schools analyze data to determine areas of need, observe classroom instruction, set appropriate goals, and evaluate it to see if these goals were achieved.
So the Sun Valley High School ILT members met, which consists of the department chairs in each content area, met with the Fulton ILT members, and we met at a conference, and that's the first time we worked with them. So we looked at the data for both schools, and we found a common trend, some areas of needs, and we found that the EL learners actually weren't meeting the A through G requirements.
We start with an activity to bring the groups together so that the groups that are working in observing classrooms, even though they might not know each other, they get to know each other in a sense of, we're all kind of the same. We're all doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So what he did was he took us into what low inference data looks like. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that has judgment, and it has to be very specific. We need to analyze. We need to go into it and say, instead of saying, "Oh, the kids were engaged," you need to say a specific number, for example, or what they were specifically doing is the most important thing. Sometimes you go into classroom and the students are working and you see what they're working on, and it's self-explanatory. Mm-hmm. Other times you do have to ask students and like questions like, hey, what are you working on? And we attempt to write 10 to 15 post-its that say what we observed the students were doing or what they were saying. Okay. Once you do that, we get a larger piece of butcher paper and we divide it up into things that we see in common. An easy way to do it would be, what are students saying, what are students doing? But when you get more into it, sometimes you go into levels of depth of knowledge.
Documentaries such as this provide the opportunities for stakeholders to implement similar programs in their own schools throughout the country. Let's meet the producer of Instructional Rounds, Dawn Guest Johnson.
Dawn, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on your Vic Awards.
Thank you, glad to be here.
Tell me some of the major considerations that you have to take in place when you create a production, a professional development production, such as Instructional Rounds.
Well, you want to know what you're doing. The topic was instructional rounds, so I needed to really know what that was. To read books, to figure out what message am I trying to get across, and then what is an instructional round. So you want the information to be correct. You don't want to produce a professional development video and the content is not correct. So that was one of the big things. Then you want to think about, who are you going to interview? How are you going to get this footage? Protecting students' rights, with video and film and things like that. And then, putting everything together. You want to make it special, something that people remember.
Tell me how the students were involved in the process of making this production.
We had to videotape the classes in progress. And then in the post-production part, they helped me edit. I filmed 2 students. One of the big things is they're always my magical editors. They're able to take footage and make it work. So that's pretty much in that production where my students had the major part.
So I'm assuming that the staff at Sun Valley High School has seen the production. How do you believe that they've benefited from Professional Rounds?
Well, actually, they haven't seen it. The whole staff has not seen it yet. We actually shot it for the Literacy Design Collaborative in Tampa, Florida. We were there for professional development, and we wanted to show the organization what we were doing, like what worked this year for us. So it's a process that our school is going through, looking at our instruction, figuring out best practices, and how to meet the needs of our students. So they haven't seen it yet. So when they see it, they're going to be surprised. Like, it's awesome. And I think they will benefit just from the reflective process. This is actually what we did this year. Most people were doing PowerPoints and handouts and things like that, and we were just hooking up our speakers, like, here is what we're doing. It was a great way to show the organization, this is what we've worked so hard on. So other teachers and other principals, they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. There was no question, this is what Sun Valley High School is doing.
Well, Dawn, thank you for joining us, and congratulations to you and your students.
Thank you.